A shiny battle event? More Pokémon remakes? Waving your controller like a true Pokémon Ranger? Or perhaps watching the entire Pokémon Saga on Netflix? Yup, it's almost that time of the year again, Pokémon Day! A celebration that honors the founding of Pokémon. It occurs on February 27th and marks the release of the very first Pokémon games in 1996 in Japan. During Pokémon Day, a variety of events are typically organized, including special promotions, announcements of new games or products, live streams and more. Like Pokémon Presents. It's a significant day for Pokémon fans worldwide to come together and celebrate their love for the franchise. Hi, Johnny from Galaxy Worm here, welcome back to the universe. Today we're shaking things up and diving into what we can expect on Pokémon Day, along with some predictions and some exciting ideas I hope to see in Pokémon someday. Netflix. First we'll start talking about Netflix. Last year Pokémon announced a collaboration with Netflix for Pokémon Concierge. Recently, the license for Pokémon Journeys has also been renewed on Netflix. And Pokémon Horizons is set to make its debut on Netflix starting March 7th. Surprisingly, the release is not limited to America. In my country, Pokémon Horizons will also be available from March 7th. Which is very strange because we usually have to wait an extra year before we can watch it. Could this signify more Pokémon projects with Netflix now that Pokémon TV is stopping? Perhaps there is a possibility for a comprehensive deal with Netflix to stream all Pokémon episodes, including the entire Ash and Pikachu saga. Having access to such a platform would be fantastic for the fans to watch them all. A Scarlet and Violet update. Of course, we'll also expect a special battle event for Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, similar to the Mewtwo raid, or perhaps something more like the Zeraora Dynamax raid back in Sword and Shield. Who knows, we might be able to face off against the first ever Almighty Mark shiny Pokémon. That would be great, to be honest. Although a special event where we can obtain a shiny Miraidon or Koraidon or just a normal one would be exciting too. The next game in line. But what new game or spin-off can we also expect? Of course, it's way too soon for Gen 10. Would they be cooking up a new remake or a new Legends game? Even though that sounds very interesting, I have a feeling that might be too soon. And even if they were working on a black and white remake, please don't go the same road as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It is not that I hated those remakes, I had my fun with them, but it was also kind of like a slap in the face. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire were amazing remakes. One of the best ever made in my opinion. That's just my opinion, so don't raise the pitchforks yet. I really hoped Diamond and Pearl could do better, but that was not really the case. It was just a copy-paste with better graphics, a faithful remake. And it's not like they added more things. Okay, the Grand Underground was great, and the challenging gym and Pokémon League fights were nice. But why would you copy the one bad part about the Sinnoh games? Like the few Pokémon you can only evolve once you defeated the League. Like, why would you copy that from the original Sinnoh games? If I'm training a Gligar, I don't want to wait until after the League to evolve it. I'm not saying that the game was terrible. I'm not here to hate. It was just unfortunate. I would have loved a Sword and Shield style Sinnoh game. But who knows, maybe one day we'll get a Platinum remake we all hoped for. But as we all know, Game Freak tries not to be predictable. So they are cooking up something, but the question is what? It's going to be something that the anime can easily follow up on. We have never had a game that combined different kinds of regions. No, Hardball with Johto and Kanto doesn't count. What I mean by combined regions is a story where you have to travel from region to region for certain things because it's needed for the storyline. So I would not be surprised to the game based on Journeys or the new Pokémon Horizons. A chaotic adventure allowing every mechanic could provide players with an unprecedented level of freedom and excitement. While the ability to Dynamax, Mega Evolve, Terrestrialize and utilize C-moves, the game would offer endless strategic possibilities, making battles truly epic. It would be intriguing to witness how such a game balances these mechanics while weaving them into a cohesive storyline. Overall, this concept holds great appeal for Pokémon fans seeking a fresh and thrilling gameplay experience. Just talking about some awesome concepts makes me all fired up. Maybe next game, we could receive a mystery gift Pokémon, similar to when Dusk Lycanroc was first introduced, but this time featuring Charcadet. We already have a sword fighter and a gunner, but not yet a brawler. So who knows, maybe we'll get a third one. Not gonna lie, that would be awesome. Black and White or Gold and Silver. But yeah, a Black and White remake still lies on the table. Or maybe a sequel. Imagine Black and White 3, somewhere in the future after Blueberry Academy. It could become very interesting with new and old gym leaders. Or the main character investigating Subway boss Ingo's disappearance. If a sort of Black and White 3 game were to be released, it's uncertain what will happen with the original Black and White and Black 2 and White 2 games. As of now, these older games cannot be played on the Switch. Well, there are a few possibilities for what could happen. Game Freak could opt for a faithful remake on the original Black and White games, updating them for the Switch with improved graphics and features while maintaining the core gameplay experience. Another possibility is that Game Freak could make the older Black and White games available through Nintendo Online Pass, allowing players to access them as part of their subscription service. Ultimately, it's up to Game Freak and Nintendo to decide how they want to handle the availability of older games on the Switch. But Black and White aren't the only games waiting for a remake. Although Johto has already been remade before, my preference still leans towards Black and White. As Gold and Silver celebrate their 20th anniversary, there's potential for a special anniversary game. However, instead of simply copying and pasting them, it would be great to see some extra features added, like Mega Evolutions. While Mega Evolutions might not be heavily balanced for competitive play like in Worlds, considering Brilliant Diamond wasn't used in Worlds, adding Mega Pokémon to the remake could bring some excitement. They could follow the example of Let's Go Pikachu, but perhaps make Mega Evolutions available earlier in the game. Please also no Pokémon Go style game. Even introducing new Mega Evolutions would be welcome. Okay, while ILCA might not have the authority to introduce new Pokémon, why not collaborate more closely with Game Freak? While ILCA focuses on the remake, Game Freak could work on upgrades. Just like how Ultra Sun and Moon introduced a parallel universe from Sun and Moon. Why not do something similar with the remake? Introducing regional forms of newer Pokémon could also add an exciting twist to the game. A spin-off! Is there any sort of spin-off we can expect? I would love to see a remake from the Mystery Dungeon Explorer saga. Just like what they did with the Rescue Team Mystery Dungeons. These games made my childhood awesome. So it would be amazing to finally play these games once more. Mystery Dungeon is not the only one I hope would make a return. Pokémon Ranger. Pokémon Ranger is a role-playing game designed in a format radically different from the traditional Pokémon RPGs. The player controls a Pokémon Ranger in the Fire region and catches Pokémon temporarily by using a device called a Capture Styler, which is controlled by the stylus, the Nintendo Pen thing. The storyline of the game is set out in 10 main missions with 3 sub-missions. The only Pokémon that travels permanently with the player is a Minun if the player chooses the male hero, or a Puzzle if the player chooses the female hero. The player must loop the Pokémon with the styler a certain number of times to capture them. Of course, the capture method would be different on the Switch, because we don't have the stylus pen. But that doesn't make it impossible, we still have the controllers we can wave around, like when you play Switch Sports, so it's not impossible. Of course, the game would be limited for Switch users or OLED Switch users, because Switch Lite users cannot undock their controllers. Even if these games don't get a remake, I would still be happy to see them join the Nintendo Online services on the Switch, like other games for the entertainment system. Unfortunately, they only go up to Game Boy Advanced. So come on Nintendo, add the Nintendo DS function as well. I know it will be less straightforward because we cannot use the pen this time, but there are always solutions. The Legends Saga. Now let's talk about some ideas that I would love to see in the Legends Saga games. If you want, I can talk for hours about some amazing ideas for these games. Like one with the original First Darkest Day, the origin of the primal forms or megastones, and of course the origin dragon and so on. But we'll go deeper into this with another video planned for the future, so if you're interested, stay tuned for that. For now, let's focus on one concept. A Legends series set in the Hoenn region with a pirate team and a shiny Rayquaza. Picture yourself sailing across the Hoenn seas aboard a small ship looking for Mirage Island and encountering sea villains similar to Team Aqua and facing land-based villains like Team Magma. Imagine having a Quaxly as one of the 3 starter Pokémon, evolving into a water ghost type bird pirate. Additionally, introducing new forms for Pokémon like Sharpedo and Camerupt, adapted to the old wildlife of Hoenn. These forms could incorporate elements from their Mega Evolution, enhancing their appearance and abilities. Another intriguing concept would be the introduction of a special breed of Mightyena, utilized by the villains. Kinda just like Tauros breeds in Scarlet and Violet. A water breed Mightyena and a fire type. This could breathe some new life into Mightyena, just like what they did with Obstagoon. Or just a Mightyena evolution is also welcome. Of course, the concept of noble Pokémon would remain the same. I'd love to see Fortree City in the past, a sprawling jungle inhabited by a majestic Pokémon that appears to be an evolution of Carnivine. This towering flesh-eating plant evolution could now take on the form of a grass-flying type, hinting at a future flying-type gym that will anchor itself in this city. The usual basics for Pokémon Day. As usual, Pokémon Day kicks off with a heartfelt thank you to the community by celebrating this day all together. Following this, they will delve into updates and events for spin-off and mobile games like Pokémon Masters EX, Pokémon Café, Pokémon Sleep, Pokémon Unite and of course Pokémon Go. Anticipate news about new Pokémon joining these mobile games, special events and more. And let's not forget Pokémon TCG. No Pokémon Day would be complete without some exciting updates about the trading card game. What would you hope to see in the future of Pokémon games? Like the return of Team Rainbow Rocket? A black and white game with extreme evil Catsis? Any ideas you want to share? Feel free to let us know in the comment section down below. As always, I'm Johnny, thanks for listening and wishing you all an amazing Pokémon Day. See ya!